right into it. All right, first topic. Did you guys see the gentleman who I mean, gentleman, I probably shouldn't use that word, but who killed his ex girlfriend and then went and killed his ex wife?
No, I'm not
No.
familiar with that story.
Okay.
No.
So essentially, what happened was he was having problems with like child custody and things of that nature. So his ex girlfriend was pregnant, but she was doing the same thing, saying he can't see the kids, so on and so forth. And then so he shot her in the head, and then he went on Facebook Live and was just talking about how he going through it, his job, he can't see his kids. She was pulling the same stunts, and so he killed her. He's like, he never thought I. He said he never thought I'd be that guy. And then he's standing outside his ex-wife's house, right? And he's saying, so, but my start of this dealing with this type of issue came from the ex-wife. So I'm gonna kill her, then I'm gonna kill myself. He's literally saying this. And then literally he's like, oh, there go my ex-wife right now. And then the video cuts off. So he ended up killing her and then killing himself after.
On Facebook Live.
Well, no, he turned it off, but it's just him like giving like a synopsis of his whole story on Facebook Live. And then he sees her. He's like, oh, there she go right here. It was actually in Baltimore. He was from
So,
Baltimore, but he killed. Uh-huh.
so he didn't have any viewers.
Uh,
Like, so
man.
everybody was like, nobody heard him going through this like rant or.
Well, it's a lot of that. I mean, even like, I mean, this might be a not a great example, but how many people watched George Floyd die? You know what I mean? Our society now is just FaceTime. You just watch. You
Yeah.
very little do people intervene, or they might have thought he was bullshit. He looked like a regular Joe Schmo. You know what I'm saying? So, but just going through that. I mean, that was a very. I mean, this was horrible, tragic. But in terms of like custody with children, why is it always assumed that the women get custody, and should it be that way? That's my question. Why is it assumed that women get custody, and should it be that way, considering the child is technically 50-50? So, Aisha, we'll start with you.
I don't know. I mean, I do CPS, so I see this all the time.
Mhm.
I think women are just assumed to be more of the nurturer. And me as a mom, period, like, you're not taking my child away from me. So I
Okay.
don't know.
What if the dad feels the same?
We gonna fight it out in court. I think that's something courts are just favor moms. I don't know why, but more moms stand up and want to take their children opposed to fathers.
So, I think oftentimes it's assumed as such, and then men are often put in that position where they have to do the fighting and justify, right? But why? Why wouldn't it be 50-50 off the bat, considering the child is 50-50, um, technically, right, based on chromosomes? Corey, what you think?
Uh, that's a good question. I don't have any kids, so I don't have any firsthand experience with this. But I think I don't really see a problem with the mother, being given, the kids up front, and the guy having to like prove that he deserves the kids if he wants to fight for them or whatever. I don't even have a good reason for it though. I just feel like women are just better with taking care of kids overall than men are. That might not even be correct, but just my experiences and my observations. Um, I think women are probably better than men at the job, so it makes sense to give custody to the woman.
Okay, okay. Tamora?
I think that it should be 50-50. 100%. Um, I mean, if you're saying in the court system, naturally they would give it to the mom for the, sole reason of the women being nurturers. But as long as a guy comes in and says he wants to be present in that person's life, I don't see any reason. I think the way that it is that it is automatically given 50-50. But I don't know. I've never really gone through the court system. But if a guy is saying, I want shared custody, usually they do what, 3 day, 4 day, to where the dad has the child 3 days, the mother has the child 4 days or something like that. But I don't think that there's ever a case where they're just like, no, the mother automatically has sole custody if the guy is fighting for them. But you could correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, there's a fight, but
I
oftentimes with that fight comes um child support also. So that's assumed as well, right? Gentlemen will be paying child support while fighting for custody, which seems kind of contrary.
But if the guy is saying, hey, I want to be a part of this child's life and I want to have 50-50 custody, does it have to be a battle unless the mother's putting up a fight? So I
You
think
see,
the question would be whether or not the mother is putting up the fight to have that 50-50 custody.
hmm you
Right.
see,
And in that case, when a lot of times when women are putting up the fight to not have 50-50 custody, I can't see any reason why somebody would be against that. Um, I you're gonna take your kids, like, listen, I'm only having them this many times, you're gonna have them this many times. If I'm going on vacation, you're going on vacation. You seen that.
yeah,
Like Hamp has literally witnessed myself and my ex-husband. We got two different Airbnbs. We go, listen, I'm going on vacation. I'm not the only worst person that's about to be frustrated at Disney World. Like you gonna be frustrated like I am. That's just the way that's gonna go.
yeah, I
I'm not
definitely.
spending all my money. You spending half of your money too. Like that's just the way that it's gonna operate, and that's how it's always gonna operate. But everybody doesn't see it that way. But a
Yeah.
lot of times that fight to not do 50-50 might be because of money. It might be because, listen, I want more child support. So if I can prove that I have them, you know, more than half of the time, then maybe I get more of a stipend for it. That's the only thing that I can think of. But I don't see how that benefits the children in any way. And then other guys just don't want it. They don't want the responsibility more than the weekend dads.
Mm, okay. Caddy.
Yeah, I mean, I think by default the court does favor mothers. Um, I can't say that it's right, but I can say that I understand because, just like Aisha said, mothers by default are considered the nurturers. Like we, conceive the kids and we rear them. We breastfeed them. So like initially the baby needs us holistically. But I do also know that there are fathers that have sole custody of their kids too. Of course, they have to go through the court system. Um, and it's not easy to prove a mother being unfit. I think it's easier to prove that a father is unfit. But it does happen. But I mean, I really can't speak, because again, I don't have kids and I've never gone through the court system. We know that the court system is biased naturally, so it's just a matter of the relationship between the mother and the father, if there is one to begin with, and what's agreed upon and what the court decides is fair. Because I've seen it work so many different ways.
Yeah. Okay. Sean, what you feel?
Well, to answer your question about the assumption of custody comes from a time before us where women were home more. So a man wasn't going to get custody because he had work to do, and a woman's responsibility was tied into raising kids on a less homeschool work basis. So women stayed home a little bit more. And today, I think that the assumption is carried over. So a lot of dudes just assume, "Oh, I can't get custody or I can't get this. So I'm not gonna go to court. I'm not gonna fight it. I'm just gonna let the courts dictate or let the kid's mom dictate the pace or the process."
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I've been to court. I've probably won't stop going to court for a while. So I see, a lot of times men don't fight. They don't fight. And I fought for 50-50 physical, 50-50 sole custody, and I got that. Um, but what a lot of people don't understand, what I didn't understand either, was primary care. So that's where really the child support kicks in, is where's the child spending most of his time at between the two parents. And to be honest, a lot of guys don't want to split that time or have the majority of that time just because it comes with that responsibility of having a kid all the time or primarily. So I think that comes from a different time frame, the assumption that women are going to get custody. But in reality, that's not the case. You don't even have to fight for real. Like, you just show up to court. and a woman has to prove that you are unfit. Like Caddy said, she would have to prove that you are unfit. And if you aren't doing anything illegal, if you are working, if you are, you know, a generally good person, you probably will get 50-50. But a lot of guys don't even go or fight. So they don't even know.
So you referenced like a time before that
Mhm.
also seems to insinuate like when their parents were in the same home, right? But 72% of black children are born out of wedlock,
Mhm.
right? And you got to think about law is often reactionary, right? Something happens and then a law is instituted,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
right? And so there's assumptions made based on what happened, what it was reacting to, you know? So when I first went for my oldest daughter, right? They were like, yeah, so this is how much you pay. I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? She here half the time, right? But it was just automatically like, yeah, like this is a thing, right? Because especially when we walk in, they make all these assumptions, and you got to remember the judge is I mean, usually, often Caucasian, right? And right, they make their own assumptions. They never been through it before. And I just think, frankly, it's bullshit. But like Poop says, if there's no fight, then technically they probably won't have to go through that. But it's often assumed, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense, right? And nurture versus nature. So one, they pasteurize breast milk. Now, you can get breast milk from other people, and then formula has more proteins and everything than that bullshit breast milk that y'all be producing anyway.
Did you just call what comes from my titties? I'm like, am I
You
delayed?
know, I will say this. I did breastfeed all my kids with the sole purpose of expecting them to be like super smart Jimmy Neutrons. And I had to pay for fucking tutoring for two of them. I'm like, how the fuck are y'all dumb? Like I breastfed y'all like I breastfed y'all for a year with the purpose of you guys being scholars. Like I'm sending them to Sylvans. I'm doing like this was supposed to save me this step. So, I totally would like it's a waste of time. I mean, I did it because they sold me like, oh, it's so like healthy and, I wanted to be a good parent, but I tell new moms all the time, fuck that shit, feed your kids formula.
Word. So everybody agrees that it should be 50-50 off the jump, unless somebody is deemed unfit, but it can't be by the word of someone else.
No, I disagree.
Go ahead.
Oh, really?
I don't think it should be 50-50. Because to be honest, a lot of dudes don't care, don't fight, and really aren't equipped to do that. I mean, that's
You saying you gotta fight for your kids?
yeah.
Why? Because of the construct. But what about if we didn't have to do all that and it's assumed that 50% of that child's time is ours? Oh,
I mean, I've seen it. I sit in court, and I sat in court, and I've seen a lot of dudes just don't show up. So if you're not, and people, us as black men, we kind of afraid of the court system anyway. So we don't want anybody to direct us there and get told what to do or how much to pay or when to pick up and all of that. But to be honest, yeah, you should. You should show up. If it gets down to a legal construct, then yes, you should. Because nowadays the assumption is fading a little bit where if you do show up or if you file, like for me, I filed first.
mhm.
So me filing first I guess, negated the assumption that I was some kind of deadbeat sucker, whatever. But I mean, for every one of me that files, it's 100 niggas who don't show
Mhm.
up.
Yeah. I guess my point is, why do we have to go through that?
I mean, that's only if it comes down to you having to abide by some kind of legal parameters. If you can make a decision outside of court, then y'all get it done. That's the better option. But a lot of times that's not reality.
Yeah, well, that's a shame, and it probably because of the lack of wedlock, right? Right,
Of
there's
course.
nothing intertwining those people but that child.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and there's bitterness on both sides too. Men are a little bit bitter when it comes to women having more time with the kid, especially if you love your kids, you want to be with your kids just as much as the mom does. So you kind of lose out on that. So you are a little bit bitter. And then in turn, some women are are bitter that you get free time away from the kids to do what you want to do. Like, Tamora said, like, y'all go on vacation and do all that. Like, a lot of dudes don't have to worry about consequences of scheduling kids or scheduling babysitters or somebody to watch kids because they kind of just move when they feel.
Do you feel like kids? I see. I feel like what you said is a fact, but also I feel like often kids are weaponized. Like it's not
Oh
about
yeah.
the kid. Often it's about the bread. It's about the disdain, right? And I feel like it can be the kid being used by a weapon, as a weapon, so to speak.
Yeah, there's a lot of moms out there who consider their kids possessions. My, me is my kid, my kid, my kid, and that's when it turns into weaponizing the kid.
Yeah, and there are men too who weaponize their kids too to keep a hold of their baby moms.
Absolutely.
So it works both
Absolutely.
ways, which is why you should be careful who you have kids with, because that's a lifelong commitment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How do men weaponize kids?
There are men who prey on certain women who want to keep that level of attachment there. I'm not going to say they get them pregnant because it takes two. But after pregnancy, when the child is here, let's say for whatever reason the woman doesn't want to be with the man anymore, but they have a child, and the man would say, well, I'm only going to spend time with my kids if we're spending time together as a family, or I'm only gonna come get the child as long as I know that you're not doing anything while I have the child. Like I have a friend that it's a messy situation where
Yeah.
she has to deal with her baby's father, like manipulating her in that instance, where he's supposed to come get his child on the weekends, but if he finds out that she has a date, he's just like, oh, well, I'm not gonna get pick up my child. So I mean, yeah, it
That's
can get real
unfortunate.
nasty.
That's unfortunate. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
Yeah. There's a lot of that. There's people that, I mean, they got to give some cootie to get some Pampers or get the baby shoes. That happens.
Hmm.
Like, oh, you want your kid to get picked up? Cheeks.
Yeah.
Else, else that's it. Or you want to go to work, right? Like that happens.
How
Oh,
toxic is that? That's just nasty.
that's why. Like motherfuckers need to stop having kids. Like Corey said on the
There you go.
last show, he said you having sex to have an orgasm, right?
Yeah.
That's why most people are having sex, and then you get seated up, and then you want to try to be a fucking parent, and you ain't been trying to be a parent for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
Put him in the
and,
fucking bedroom. Get him out of here.
Like, it doesn't make any sense.
and not equipped to be a parent.
No, and I don't
Right.
Right.
think
That part.
it is, but at least it's your mind frame is somewhat there. You can get right. But you in the middle of you just graduated college, you might be getting some money, and then you fuck around and have a kid on accident. You ready to just stop and slow down? I mean, it don't make sense.
Yeah. But again, some people are pro-choice. Well, no, not pro-choice, pro-life. And even though they may know that they're not ready to have a child, they're not also not ready to abort the child. So they just kind of deal with it and figure out a way. A lot of people do. I don't think that there's, there are books on parenthood, but there really isn't a scripture on it. Like, there's um, every child is different. So, and every experience of parenthood is different. So, I mean, I tip my hat off to all of you parents who are really out here, doing a damn thing, because a lot of times, especially single individuals who've never experienced parenthood, they have a lot of judgment, and there's just no room to judge, because I know and I can imagine that it's hard raising kids. So
Fuck them kids, man.
Same.
Mhm. All right, all right. Any last thoughts on that?